Mitchell.
House for this piece of legislation which we are going through under urgency, and that would be the first question to the Minister. Minister, why are we sitting in the House under urgency debating a bill that's coming in on the 1st of January? We've got 6 months that we could actually put this in and have a committee stage, take it through to select committee and hear from submitters, of which anecdotally we have heard evidence to say that 2/3 of the country think that this is nothing more than a kick in the guts. It's a get stuffed, do nothing, stuff it, and we're going to force you into giving up smoking. And there is no evidence that suggests that that is actually going to take place by increasing the tax by 10% per annum. In fact, it's more than 10% per annum. It's actually 10% plus CPI. So can you please answer that question to the people back home and the millions of people that are interested in why are we in urgency discussing this today when we've got 6 months that we could have actually run through a due process to go through and hear submitters speak to it? My second question to you, Minister, is I've got some sort of clarification requirements when it comes to understanding or trying to understand the order in council provision that you've got, which in part 1 it says here requires every new rate of excise duty or excise equivalent duty that the order in council imposes on a tobacco product to be calculated by adding 10% of the existing rate. My understanding to that would be that by order in council, you, the Minister, can make a decision to actually increase that excise at a later stage. Could you please clarify that for us? There is certainly some ambiguity in relation to that. There has been very few times in the House over the last 18 months, sir, that I can actually agree with the ideology, if you like, and theory behind David Seymour. But I have to say, he is making sense along with New Zealand First that says that this bill really is looking. Yeah, I'm pushing it. I know I'm pushing the barrow right out here. That this bill is actually going to potentially force and increase the amount of robberies and aggravated robberies and people actually that are in a very impoverished position to try and actually force their habit, if you like, to support their habit, to feed their habit. And that is going to have some serious concern. If the government think that raising a tax on cigarettes is the answer to stop them from doing it, then, like my colleague Fletcher Tabuteau has already said, why aren't they doing it with other things that are causing harm in society? Fats in foods, sugars, alcohol, all these other things. This is nothing more than revenue collecting by this government that is trying to balance the books as we go into the 2017 general election so they can actually hand out a lolly scramble of tax cuts next year to say that this is what we're here to achieve. Mr. Chair, I have to say, if the ideology behind that increase in tax, that huge gouge into the working class, the middle class New Zealander is going to benefit them, then we have to, as a government, surely look at what it would do in reverse. If you're talking about taxing things that are bad for us, what about taking tax off things that are good for us? What about taking off GST at 15% off food? The actual cost of living has gone through the roof in this society because we are being charged. Vulnerable people, poor people and everyday New Zealanders are being taxed to live. Now surely, to look at taxing cigarettes by 10%, we should be taking 15% off GST for foods if that would balance out their argument of why they're actually putting a tax on in the first place. How they cannot look at that is beyond us, sir. New Zealand First has been advocating for that for some time now, and every time we hear from this government rhetoric is we can't afford to take it off. How are we going to afford to? Well, I say to this government, how can you afford not to take GST off food, 15%, when you can sit here plain-faced in this House and say that we're going to tax smokers 10% because it's good for our health and well-being of the future of our government. Maggie Barry, you're not making any sense. I would just zip it right here. She doesn't often. Mr. Chair, I have to say we will not be supporting this bill. This is nothing more than revenue collection of $425 million by this government, and they're not balancing it off by taking GST off food to balance out this ridiculous equation that it's going to do more good than harm. Thank you, sir.